Good evening, everyone. It is my honor to really be MC for this evening. I wasn't able to make last year's, but I think this is a very important undertaking, and definitely, we can all support and grow. Welcome to the second annual Belize Prize for Investigative Journalism. I'd like to recognize the president of UB, Dr. Vincent Palacio, and also the representative for the Taiwan ambassador in our midst, and of course, members of the media. I don't have much to say, and it's not a very long program, so we're going to call Holly to make some remarks, and then we'll get into the meat of the matter for today. Give her a little round of applause for all her support. Yeah.
Didn't I give you your first job in journalism?
Yes.
Yes, I did. Back in the old Channel 5 days when we were still in the old building and all of that, so. Okay. So I also wanted to welcome our guest, Dr. Palacio, and our representative from the Taiwan Embassy. Thank you so much. But I also want to say a special thank you to Niche because they really gave us a break on the space. And so if anybody here knows anybody at Niche, please tell them thank you on our behalf. Okay, yes. I'll send him a message on Facebook. But I also just want to thank all the journalists who are here, not just the ones who were getting an award, but there are people here who have come to support their colleagues. And so I applaud you for coming, and it's really nice to see that. And I hope that as we continue to work on this award, that we'll just continue, that this night every year will be the hot ticket, right? No one, if you're not here, you're square, if you're not, right? Be there or be square. One thing I wanted to say was that people have different definitions of what investigative journalism is. And there is a saying that all journalism is investigative, and that has a grain of truth because you're doing a news story in order to find something out or to report something. But I found a few sentences that I thought were really important. There is truth to that saying, but investigative journalism is a set of methodologies that make up a craft. It goes deeper, it goes broader, it demands accountability, it requires research. It is painful sometimes, it takes a long time sometimes, it takes investment, not only in resources, but time, really. It takes patience. I talked earlier today, we had a workshop, which in conjunction with the prize, and it was funded by the U.S. Embassy, who also funded the wine, by the way. So we can thank Uncle Sam. We had this workshop, and we talked a lot about what it is and what the definitions are. We're going to continue to do training. But I think that the idea of accountability, justice, equity, speaking for the voiceless, and not letting up on people who have made promises. All of these things are part of investigative journalism. And so whatever your definition is, it's hard work. It goes beyond going to a press conference. It goes beyond covering Carnival, all of which are important, right? All of which are important, but the people who are everyone who entered the awards and the people who are finalists, they've all done something above and beyond what the daily grind of journalism is, if you will. So that's something to celebrate as well. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the judges. We have a panel of 4 judges. 3 of them are international, and 1 is from Belize, and that's Janelle Chanona, who you all probably know. The three other judges are Geraldine Coles Azokar. She is a senior producer with NBC News Now in New York. She's originally from Venezuela and has practiced journalism in the US and Venezuela and has actually come here to Belize to train with me and do training. So she is very fond of Belize. Then we have Christopher Saunders. He's also come here to do trainings with me. He's a senior communications specialist at the University of the Bahamas and a former journalist. And then we have John Elegant, who is originally from Trinidad and Tobago, but is now the Johannesburg, South Africa bureau chief for the New York Times. And he's probably asleep right now. At any rate, these are our judges. This is the second year that we've had the same judges, and we hope to continue with them. And I really wanted to get their feedback, too, on what improvements they're seeing, what common threads they're seeing. They gave each entry a score on from 1 to 5, 5 being the highest score, and then we calculated from there, but they also provided me with their comments and their notes about the entrance. And so that's a little bit of behind the curtain about how we went about judging these things. We thought it was important to have one judge from Belize because it's Belize, but also if the other judges wanted some context or discussion about something that was in the awards that they didn't understand topic-wise or context-wise, she would be able to help them out. So that's why we did that. We are going to aim to do this every year around May 3rd. May 3rd is World Press Freedom Day. UNESCO declared that in the 90s. And so we're going to aim to do the awards around the same time. Of course, it's going to probably fall on a different day of the week, and then also continue to do some training as well. So I did want to say that I'll be asking for some feedback about the workshop from everyone who was there, and seeing ways that we can improve it, as well as improve the prize in addition to that. And before we move on, I told the workshop participants we had a big surprise tonight. And that big surprise is that the University of Belize is going to become the new home for the award, for the prize. What that means is that it will be the host institution going forward. I will still be doing all the logistics and bits and pieces, but we are signing this MOU in order to sort of take a first step with UB on what we think we can do to really elevate journalism as a profession and in education in Belize. Did I characterize that correctly? So without further ado, we're going to go over here and actually sign the MOU.
And I have any media coverage.
And I'll let our MC take it from here.
That's your phone? Really good initiative. I think for those of us who have been around for donkey's years in journalism, getting something through the university is much needed. I think given the fact too that you have so many young people coming into journalism, but it's also a very transient kind of, job. People come in, they don't know what to expect, and very often they don't stay very long because it's very taxing. And you learn on the job, and it's perhaps one of the most unforgiving jobs because when you make your mistakes, they're on air. And people give you feedback whether you want it or not, right? And the ones who always say, great job, and tell you and hype you up may not always tell you the truth, right? They might just want to spare your feelings. But as Holly said, I started working in journalism because of Holly and the relationship that we had at Channel 5. But I think it offers a lot of opportunities for people to grow and to really find truth everywhere that you go. I like the fact that you're talking about investigative being something that, you just do with every story, because if you don't have thirst to find out the whys, you get stuck right there, right? And the how is equally important. So I think this is really commendable. Please give Holly and her team and everybody a round of applause. Now, the reason why we're really here is to look at the finalists. I like what Holly said about this will be a hot ticket item, that people will actually come and celebrate the work that the media does. Because I think people don't understand how important it is, that you shine a light on issues that are critical to the understanding and the functioning of the wider society that people don't always do. But to prove just how much light we have shining on different issues that are important to our country, let us view the videos, and we'll do them in alphabetical order by the title. So the first one that we're going to view is Belize's Environmental Impact Assessments, End in Sight, by Andre Habet and Marco Lopez for Plus TV and Earth Journalism Network.
The EIA process entails 4 major steps that each of the proposed Belize City cruise ports went through. First, a developer submits a project proposal for screening by the DOE. Once reviewed, the DOE determines whether the project requires a limited level study, an EIA, or no further review. If an EIA is necessary, the developer hires a consultant or consulting firm that will prepare the EIA. The Department of the Environment then issues the terms of reference, which outlines for the developer what environmental studies they need to complete to receive environmental clearance based on the proposed project.
When you look at this process, you see that we have to make changes and interventions in even what gets to an EIA process. Because I do fully take on board a developer saying, I've invested in an EIA, I've paid for studies, and then you get into this process, and then the process itself takes over, and you end up at a point where it's a yes or no to a project, and NEAC is then left to make recommendations on maybe something that should never have gotten to that point. In
the second major step, the consultant, funded by the developer, hires the relevant personnel to conduct the studies required by the Department of Environment. Port of Belize hired Nexter environmental and engineering consultants, Port of Magical hired Sustainable Development Consulting, and Port Coral's EIA was prepared by NTE.
Well, technically, anybody who wants to be a consultant in environment can do so, as long as you have at least a first degree in any sciences. And then because normally to develop an impact assessment and a study, you have to hire people of different levels and standards and areas. So you have to be team up with quite a group of professionals to conduct this thing. And once you are a good writer and somebody that can lead a team, you can be an EIA preparer, no problem with that.
Round of applause, please. Yeah, thank you. We'll keep pushing forward, and we'll have our second piece entitled Guns and Graft, Exposing the Licensing Racket by Jules Vasquez, Cody Norales, Rydell Baird, Denver Fairweather of 7 News, Tropical Vision Limited, and also Brian Castillo.
I learned that you could do it the right way and you could do it the wrong way. Of course, with the finances.
I even had to go through the process. This person just contact me and tell me how blah blah gun license to give all right now, you interested? I get the gun license approved the day before I pay for it.
Borja got 3 guns licensed in just 8 days. This is a 2021 Toyota Tacoma that Ricardo Borja bought in July 2022 from Commissioner of Police Chester Williams. Did you sell him that fancy Toyota pickup that he had?
The person called me subsequently and said the man liked the pickup, he's going to buy it. I was paid for the pickup and that's it.
This is a high value pickup, it's a $90,000 truck.
Jules, it's not a $90,000 truck, it's a $70,000 truck.
You were in a constant exchange with Mr. Borja. I give you another license, you hand back in this license. It seems very unbecoming. You have work to do, sir. You don't got time for the micromanage Mr. Borja's license.
So nobody can get a gun license right now?
No, that is temporary on a moratorium.
Round of applause. The third piece is entitled Narco Links Suspected as Cattle Ranching Threatens Belize's Rainforests by Hipólito Novello, Freeman Rogers, Kenroy Michael, and Cheyenne Dina for News 5 and the Caribbean Investigative Journalism Network.
We are in Belize. This is Belize's side of the border with Guatemala, which is about a few meters to my west. And behind me, cattle, Guatemalan cattle. Who specifically are the owners, we do not know. What we do know is that they live in a nearby Guatemalan town.
Of course, Guatemalans come in, they would basically chase them out, but then the following morning they are coming back in with their cattle. So it's use of the land and it's use of the territory. For any Belizean out there, of course, the question would be, well, how can this really be left just like that? Well, because it's on the adjacent, that 1 kilometer of that stretch, we have been saying that we need really to be more adept, we need to be much more robust in dealing with that problem. It's remote, it's rugged terrain, so the question is, how can we really take out that? We have devised already a strategy along with the Belize Defense Force, together as jointly in terms of how do we address it.
So we are unsure who owns the cattle, but all what we know is that it's being influenced by people that have lots of money, and also people that have direct connections with higher people in government and in the area.
And that is in Guatemala?
That's in Guatemala.
There's also the belief that the cattle ranching may be connected to narco illicit activity.
There is a possibility. What happens is that I would like to stress also is that whenever they're doing these clearings, it could either be possible that they are doing it for illegal cattle ranching, or they use it for clandestine airstrips.
The cattle are owned by Guatemalans. In this case, what you said there, and from what we heard from the community members, it seems that they are owning those cattle. In other words, it's coming from the same, villagers in that village of La Rejoya.
But there's thought that they are just like the front persons who take care of the cattle, and the cattle is actually owned by other quote-unquote bigger persons.
It might be the poor people that we're going to see. So it's really hard really to see the linkages or to be able to make the connection. So I'd say we are still left with that question in terms if it is really at that level. But certainly I think the projections can tell us that if we don't really deal with it, which we have been saying also for quite some years, then it can become much more complicated for us.
And so there's one thing for certain, that whatever is happening in the Chicabo affects you. Reporting from the Belize-Guatemala border, Hipólito Novello, News 5.
Give all three of our finalists a big round of applause. Earlier, I was having a conversation with Brent, and he was saying, wouldn't it be great if the commissioner, if other stakeholders would actually come and see? What are your chances? I won't ask the most optimistic person in the room what their thoughts are, but I think, definitely the works should be celebrated, and, we definitely commend everyone who submitted for this prize. With that said, I now have the list, and I'm just representing the judges at this point, okay? Let's make that clear. And I had no inside track, just Holly. So we have 2 runners-up, and we're not ranking them as a second and third, and we have a winner. So, our first runner-up is narco links suspected as cattle ranching threatens Belize's rainforest. Hipólito, can you please come forward?
FYI, the 2 finalists each get a prize of $5,000, and the winner gets $10,000. So I forgot to mention that slight little detail, so.
Now, I'd like to ask the other 2 to come up to, no, I'm not, this is not Miss Universe. I'm sorry. No, I'm joking. Should I do the winner or should I do the other runner-up? The other runner-up? Yeah. Okay. If for whatever reason, oh, sorry, I'm just switching out. Sorry. The next runner-up is Belize's Environmental Impact Assessments End in Sight. Andre. Which means the person walking away with the crown for next year is Jules, Guns and Graft, exposing the licensing racket. Channel 7. The whole team could come up, you know. Yes. Not only the people who are in front of the camera, we know how much work goes in behind the scenes. Wow. We'll definitely have to have the commissioner come and escort Jules home. Call your bestie, Jules. Yeah, yeah. Jules?
Good night. I wrote some notes because I try not to make a fool of myself too often, although I'm quite prolific. So first of all, I want to thank the team that worked on it from day one. Brian shot the first story. Rydell Baird and James Ayala, not here, both edited it, and then Denver subsequently edited pieces, Cody subsequently shot pieces. And I say these names because in a newsroom, it's impossible to do things without teamwork because there's just so much to do and you can't micromanage everything. So many things I left to Denver to just figure it out. And you know, he just had to make creative decisions because I don't have time to micromanage it, and he did a great job. So I have to say thanks to the team. That's very important, and we know that we also have to thank our families because everybody here, as William alluded to earlier, knows that when you work from 6 in the morning until 8 at night and then stay on your phone all night, you know, it's hard on your families. I haven't seen my children in 30 years. I think they're very glad for it, though. That's what pains me, how happy they are to have not seen me. No, but, you know, it's a challenge in this line of work. I got lucky. In sports, they say you hit a heater, right? I just got very fortunate last year with Portico and with Guns and Graft. In terms of sources gave me information, regrettably, simultaneously about both stories, both the Portico situation and the gun situation, and you know, I'm already kind of crazy, and it made me crazier because you're constantly having to deal with high-level information and low-level information, and it takes a lot out of you. And I would always tell the girls in the newsroom, or the women in the newsroom, you know, that I dropped sleep last night with my phone on my chest, speaking with XY source about so-and-so. And you have to be very grateful to these people who give you information because they put their, something happened in this gun story that I think is comparable to like one Julian Assange situation. A guy actually spent some time in jail, and his 2 phones have never been recovered, to my knowledge. And I think that they felt he was giving me information, and I think he was locked up on a bogus charge. But I'm just saying, right, people take risks to give information, and they do it in the public interest because they see something wrong that's like grossly wrong. Because in this society, we have a standard level of wrong that we're willing to tolerate. But when it passes the threshold of grotesquerie, you know, people start to blow. Have to do more. You know, I spoke last year about, you know, having to frighten people, and I don't think they're frightened. That's the bad news. I think people in authority have to be scared of us, and I don't think they're scared. I think they take us as just annoyances, and that annoys me, right? So I really think that we as journalists have to do more. Today we had an investigative journalism workshop, the first organized by Holly and facilitated by Amanda, and I think it was a great step forward in terms of, we've learned some practical tools that can help us in shaping investigative journalism stories. We need more, and every time we meet someone in the public, they tell us, it's not that easy, right? And you all know that managing limited resources while chasing after the daily news, it's really tough. But today, May 4th, is an important and auspicious day. May 3rd was World Press Freedom Day, and the little-known fact that we discovered today, thanks to Courtney Menzies' eagle eye, was that May 5th, 2024, is the 30th anniversary of the Freedom of Information passing into law in Belize. Belize was prescient. Belize was the first country in the Caribbean and Latin America to pass freedom of information legislation in 1994. And so May 4th falls perfectly between those days. But we as journalists have not used this legislation properly. I did not write my first Freedom of Information letter until probably 25 years into the, 25 years, so it was passed in 94. So it's the 30th anniversary, that's what I said, right? 30th anniversary. So I didn't write it until 25 years into my practice. It's underutilized, and I don't think people utilize it enough. Yes, it can be an exercise in futility because you know the government, how they operate. However, it's important legislation, and we need to use it more. And again, today, we made a step forward in that. I also want to say that we have to end speaking about those politicians who we must try to make uncomfortable. You see, they are completely happy with the status quo, right? And the status quo is just, that they just flick us off. I remember a minister told Courtney Menzies just in this week, okay, I won't speak about anything else, I'll only speak about this. It's not a choice you have. You're answerable, you're accountable, you're an employee. And you have to answer all questions. You cannot treat us with contempt, and that is what politicians in this country, once they're in government, because when they're in opposition, they loves them some press, right? But once they are in government, they treat us like contempt, like flies are weed to the wanton gods. They dismiss us and they flick us away. And I just can't take it. So I think that we really have to brace them and frighten them and make them understand that we are interested in good governance. Politicians are not interested in good governance. Once they're in government, they're interested in enterprise. They're interested in clientelism. They're interested in who to eat. And this is PUDP. This is the standard. But we are not eating. We are not in that. And so we have to demand of them and hold them to account. I don't want to sound old, but like, their arrogance and their insularity really wears at you because, it's like the entire electoral system is a corrupted system. So we don't threaten them because they know to win elections. You buy the election. You keep the constituencies as they are, ignoring the Constitution. When do we? When do the government? So we have to end this culture of impunity. And the only way we can end it, the only antidote to impunity is truth. And that's the business we deal in. So I say this to my fellow journalists and to the society. I think that finally, I want to thank Holly, a great effort, and I'm so encouraged by the University of Belize. I think that you know, we don't teach journalism in schools, and I know this is a first step towards that. And William said a very important thing. People drift in and out of the media. It's not a very high-paying job. It's very rough in terms of the hours, the stress, the constant, WhatsApp has changed the game a lot, brother, right? Because, you know, people are reaching out to you round the clock. And I think we really need to develop the professional core of journalists, so I'm very encouraged by the University of Belize's involvement here. And I hope that with the help of Holly, we can start to build some school of journalism, somewhere that journalism is taught. And it is taught as a noble profession, a reputable profession, an important profession, and a sacred profession where we get to live by words, which is a gift that we all have. So thanks to Holly, big up UB, and thanks to everyone. And I'm grateful. I know that winning this 2 years in a row is not easy for the judges. And so I'm very surprised at the outcome. And, but grateful to the people who shared information. And I think we made a difference. We entirely changed the gun licensing regime. And I am certain it's the pressure brought by this story. And we have all seen how unsafe our society is because of all these licensed guns in the hands of foolish people. And I think that has changed now. And we have a much more rational regime. And that's what we should all try and aspire for, creating societal change that gets us a more equitable and well-managed system. Thanks so much for your indulgence. Thanks for this.
Thank you, Jules. I'll date myself a little bit, but Holly's mom actually taught Intro to Journalism at UCB, a class that I took, actually. So I still kept that book. I loaned it to somebody because it was a good resource book. And I think you had quite a number of people actually taking that class. It was the only journalism class. And I don't think the university has done anything since then. But she was actually the teacher. I don't know if you remember that, Holly. But she taught an intro to journalism, and it was a very powerful class where you actually had to go out and do research. And your final exam was actually an article that you had to do research to actually complete. So I think you just have to go back and dust off some of the things, because they're still very relevant. You know, she did the moral dilemma for journalists, starting from that point. What is your responsibility? And I think that's important. One other thing based on what Jules said that I think is equally important is the fact that when you're a journalist, you know, people, especially now with social media and everything else, it's about like and recognition and fame and everything else. But there's also a responsibility. And when people see you as a responsible journalist, very often they come to you with information. And you know, a lot of people still don't want to give their numbers, or I always laugh when people say, I don't give out my number because I don't want strange people calling me. Well, the line of business that you're in requires that you answer any and every call, much to the chagrin of Jules, at 2 o'clock in the morning, because news doesn't happen when it's convenient, unfortunately. But I think that's an important thing that you build over time with the general public, that they actually trust you enough to come and tell you stories that, you know, are very, very important and sometimes can go out into the wider community. So I think that's important. Andre, you want to come forward and say something as well, please? And then we'll wrap up with Hipólito.
It's hard to say something when you lost. But it's okay. And it's mostly because you want to reorient yourself in terms of your approach to what you want to say. I had a sense today during the workshop that I wasn't going to win today. And the reason was because the workshop was successful, in that I learned a lot about how my story could have been better. And I feel very lucky to now know that next year, whatever story I enter will be better. And that hopefully everybody who came today will have better stories. And that is the goal, not this. The goal is what Jules achieved happens 100-fold across every issue in Belize. My biggest interest in journalism stems from a moment at a party when I went to this person's house, and somebody who was in the news on Channel 7, they had just done a story on this person. I won't call names, because you know I'll call names at a prize. We're here to have fun. But this person was there, and I was like, what the hell is this person to do here? They were clearly involved in a corrupt scandal, benefiting from everything that was going on within the government at that time. And I was so disheartened by the fact that everybody was like, yo, what's up, G? What is going on? I thought, how is this okay? How is this what society has said? You're robbing from me, and I'm supposed to buck you? You're to rob from all of we, and we're all cool with this? So that's what really nested into my heart as to why journalism is important. It's not to shame individuals necessarily, but it's to recognize that there should be consequences for hurting the collective. Because that's what a country is. It's a collective of people. And individuals should never feel, as Jules said, comfortable robbing us, taking from us, and hurting us, because that's what's happening. Harm that's happening at a scale that is going to exponentially grow as all of these issues continue. And I think journalism is clearly essential right now because things are happening in the dark. They are, even more so than we think. And I think we have to prepare ourselves for what's coming. And I really feel that we can do that. And I have a lot of faith in the people that were in that room today, asking brilliant questions, knowing exactly what we need to do better. And I really hope that those people are recognized not at these prizes only, but just treated decently by bosses, treated well by society, not as heroes, but as what everybody should be doing in the society, which is participating and holding to account. I have mad respect for everybody in this room. And Marco, who couldn't be here today, who I worked on this story with, I have mad respect for him. And I came to him with respect, and he showed me respect in turn for why I was interested in this story. And so we worked on it together, and we made it. And I'm so grateful that I have been made a runner-up. And I'm so glad that I know confidently next year I'll be submitting something again, and whether or not I get to stand here in front of you again, that's beside the point, because the point will be the story. Thank you.
Thank you. And you didn't lose, right? Because hey, I would have want to lose on Carol $5,000. I don't know about you, no. Anyway, Hipólito, can you come up next?
Good night, everyone. I'll be brief because I know there are like 20 bottles of wine waiting for us. Thank you, U.S. Embassy. Yeah, so first of all, I want to give thanks to Holly and the Belize Prize for Investigative Journalism. I think this is what a lot of journalists in Belize want, or wanted for a lot of years, right? I want to give thanks to my mentor for MIC, Freeman Rogers. We produced this story over the course of about 3 months or 4 months or so. Kenra Michaels, Dreams, as we call him at Channel 5, he was the one who trekked with me in the Chica Bowl, which took like whole day. That was an arduous task. That was the fourth time I've been to the Chickabull. The previous 3 times, I literally cried because it was really, really gruesome. And I big up the soldiers and the FCD Rangers, especially Mr. Manzanero. The task they have at hand in protecting the Chickabull is just vast. And I think through this story, I would have hoped that the government, leaders, policymakers would have taken note of that more, that the Chickabull forest is invaluable. It's something that we must protect at all costs, and that resources should be going to it, especially for the BDF and, again, the FCG Rangers. The story mainly was how the issues in the Chickabull has been evolving over the past few years. We saw at first Chate being pillaged in the forest. Then we saw cattle ranching, and now narco-traffickers being involved in this illicit activity in the Chickabull. The issues are evolving and getting worse. So the point of that story was to raise awareness that policymakers, government officials, anybody that can help should help in protecting the Chickabull. I mean, again, the resources there is invaluable. Our headwaters are there. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of persons, they depend on the headwaters of the Chickabull every single day. And again, thank you for everyone who contributed to this story. And like Jules and Andre, we hope next year will be better. A lot of journalists are looking forward to this initiative. And cheers to everyone. Let's drink wine. Thank you.
We're fast coming to the end. Thank you, President. We're coming to the end and to the wine. I think maybe one of the things that we can try to do next year is actually have some kind of a broadcast of this thing, because I think you are? I'm sorry, I didn't know, right? But that's important. I like that. It's very important because I think, you know, one of the things I remember doing the news and walking home, from every home you'd hear one of the theme songs from the news, right? You no longer have that. When you have a story that captures the consciousness of Belize, today you've done a mammoth task, all right? So I think that's the field that is so important to cover right now, to have people understand that journalists are doing something that is so important to everyone. And, you know, definitely kudos for broadcasting it and making sure that people see how important this is at improving the craft and the stories that are being told. Thank you very much for coming. And to Holly and her team, to the winners, thank you.
Thank you, William. Thank you so much. I did want to make a remark, and I hope that whoever's out there watching this on Facebook hears this. This is not an award for television. This is an award for journalism. We haven't had a lot of investigative journalism in newspapers, and so if you're listening, newspaper people, step up. We expect that we'd love to see more people who work for our newspapers and blogs to start doing more investigative journalism. So that's really, really important to note. It happens that our television stations tend to invest the time and resources in investigative journalism. And so we really hope that whoever's out there watching this is thinking about writing something really powerful for their newspaper. So I want to, anybody who's here who is a journalist, I just want you to stand up even if you weren't part of the awards, because I want to just recognize you. And there's some of you are here. Thank you so much. Jose? Thank you for coming to support your colleagues. And with that, I will say please enjoy some refreshments. Thank you. Yeah, all right.